We started out this series with the story of the Good Samaritan. We end it with the story of the Good Samaritan. Do you know the story? And in the parable in Luke chapter 10, this man is attacked and robbed and left for dead. And meanwhile, these two religious leaders, the priest and the Levite, they walk by. They see him, but they walk by on the other side. When finally a Samaritan, the one person who Jesus' audience would think is the most despicable person, the most unlikely person in the minds of Jesus' listeners, stopped to help the man. And what did he do? We saw that he had compassion on him, Luke 10. But he didn't just stop with compassion. He let his compassion move him to do something. Unlike the priest and the Levite, he stopped and he had contact with this man. And he binded up his wounds and he poured oil and wine on him, verse 34. He went to him, then he cared for him, verse 34. Then he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And then lastly, he spared no cost to care for him, verse 34. But just as amazing as what the Samaritan does is what he doesn't do. He didn't take him home to care for him, did he? Rather, he took him to the inn and paid the innkeeper to take care of him. And neither did he cancel his trip. He took him to the inn, but then he went on with his trip, whatever that might have been. And then he said that he would come back. And that's as far as he went in caring for his neighbor. And I think, again, it's because the Good Samaritan, like Jesus, knew how to draw fences, knew how to draw boundaries, and apply Jesus' principle that you don't have to do it all, that you can't do it all, that you just have to do the next right thing in front of you. But how do we know what the next right thing and whether it's enough or not? Well, I think the key is understanding the difference between 2 and 4. What we are being responsible to someone versus being responsible for someone. There's a big difference between the two as it relates to people. For instance, there are some things that Scripture says that we are responsible to do. We're responsible to love our neighbors, 1 John 4:11. We're responsible to encourage our neighbor, 1 Thessalonians 5:11. We're responsible to bless our neighbor. We're responsible to pray for our neighbor. We're responsible to even serve our neighbor, Galatians 5:13. But we are not responsible for our neighbor's well-being, for our neighbor's finances, for their happiness, for their ultimate success or failure, or even for their spiritual progress. Understand, we can share the gospel, but we're not responsible for them coming to Christ. We plant, Paul says, some plant, some water, but God brings the increase. But then what do we do in the meantime, in our lifetime? Rather, what we do is the next right thing. So it might look like this. If you're married, be faithful. If you're single, be devoted to Jesus. If you're a parent, cherish and discipline your child. And if you're a leader, serve humbly and well. And if a person comes to mind, pray for them. And if a person comes across your path, ask how they're doing and linger long enough to listen to the answer. And if a person needs Christ, share the gospel. So I wonder, how frenzied do you feel today, trying to fix everyone and everything? And second, which of Jesus' principles for building relationship boundaries do you need to take with you this week? That you can't do it all, and to just do the next right thing? And what is the next right thing for you? Maybe you have no idea, and maybe it will be like I did. You just might run into somebody. It might be a phone call. It might be somebody God brings to your mind. And whatever it is, just do the next right thing, because that's what Jesus did for us.